Recreating the Learning Environment, Part 2. In the previous one, we quickly looked at the nature of the Internet being once upon an exotic thing when it first arrived in 1993, to nowadays being a utility, expected, just as water and electricity, and you expect it to work. Similarly, there's an expectation of a component for definitely distance students, but also campus students. One of my impressions is that campus students, they get a lot more for their student money, so to speak, compared to distance students. Campus students, they get to use the library, the learning spaces that we offer at our university, rooms which cost to use, the infrastructure that we have here at campus. But Umeå University also receives studentpeng, as it were, income, which is generated by distance students. My contention is, how much of that which is generated by distance students, how much is reinvested in the infrastructure for distance students? And my take is that distance students in fact subsidize campus development, and the campus development in turn benefits only campus staff and students. What do you reckon? Yes or no? For example, we have lots of fantastic physical environments for active learning, so-called active learning. We have a room called Room for Aktiv Lärande, and it's a fantastic remake of the arts faculty. And I adore the furniture and the buildings, and it's great that we have these environments. But the focus is all at campus based, and distance students will never get to use these fantastic learning spaces. The focus is here, and in 2015 and 16, I think, from my understanding, about 70 million crowns will be used for these new learning environments. And I think it's fine that we invest in our infrastructure. I just wish that, for example, it was 68 million instead, and say 2 million crowns could be used for licenses for virtual learning environments. These are virtual environments for active learning. And the thing is, these virtual environments, they benefit distance students a lot, but also campus students equally as much. So to recap, we have a campus environment, and then we have flipped classroom lectures, for example, and we have learning platforms and things like Adobe Connect for virtual meetings. These can be used by campus and distance. And then we have what I hope an investment for cloud-based, professionally made ICT tools, which we pay licenses for. And these can be used by campus students too. And the flipped classrooms that you make for your campus students, they can also be used by your distance students. So there's a win-win. Everybody benefits. So what kind of cloud-based tools am I talking about? I'll try to exemplify to make a little less abstract. First of all, some things which come within our learning platforms. There's a setting in the forums where, at least in the Moodle forum, I think there might be one in Sakai, Cambro, and here the setting is such that you can only see what somebody else has contributed into the forum once you yourself have made your own contribution, and not until. That's a super tool because it creates an environment where students have a situation of social pressure. Other students are seeing what they're writing, not only the tutor. Another really excellent tool is Villkor, or Conditional. That means you cannot move on from one step of the learning platform to another unless you've done certain things. So if you can do C, you can do C if you have completed A and if you've passed B, but not until. And it's a way to assess the flow. Different people work at different speeds. Here's a tool that I described in the presentation, VoiceThread. A VoiceThread is discussion around an image or a text or a video. And so you see people who have made these comments, and you simply click on the comment button, make your recording, and then click on save. It's a great way to discuss text or image or video, And this is an example of same place but different time. A license for this, a campus-wide license, is about 50,000 crowns per year, which means it will be a single logon for the student on the learning platform in order to be able to see this. Another tool I described was UCU for oral assessment, and this is an example where a student sees a video by their lecturer or some notes, and then they have to make a reply in video a certain amount of time, and they cannot pause, retry whatever they're doing. It's an excellent tool. Again, the price about 60,000 crowns per year for a site-wide license, single logon onto Sakai, on Canberra, or onto Moodle. Webcam and PowerPoint presentations. This is a tool called PresentMe, and again, it costs to have a license for it. Online Venn diagrams. This actually is a free tool, but there's also a very cool paid version. Students make this online and can share it with staff or with other students. Online Jeopardy games. This again is a free tool, but there are paid tools as well. And there are a whole multitude of tools which are like this. PresentMe, where a student uploads a PowerPoint, clicks a button, and you see a video of both them and the PowerPoint next door to each other. iJot, a video recording, and so on and so forth. Peerwise is a superb free online tool developed by the University of Auckland. These online tools are made by professional companies that provide excellent support. Often they have plugins for our learning platforms, so you have a single cost login, and there's an annual license. And if there was a budget made for this, and I would say if there was 2 million crowns, that would last Umeå University for the next 5 years, 6 years. And what I've described to you now is simply the tip of the iceberg. There are plentiful, superb tools, and these tools, the thing about them is some tools are more useful in some subjects compared to other subjects. So it's good that we have a variation. Now, although there are lots of tools, which ICT tools should I use in my course? And as the ICT coach at my faculty, it could be perceived that I'm just like a magician, getting pigeons out of a hat or something, but it's much more well thought out than that. Oftentimes when I have staff consulting with me and they ask about tools, well, there's a whole multitude. And my question is, well, why? What is your aim? Because my intention is to try to get people to think in a course design framework. And my guideline is the work of John Biggs and constructive alignment. And how learning objectives are measured are decided at the beginning of the course planning stage, not near the middle or near the end. So to that end, I've developed a framework for course design. And this is a little bit about what it looks like. In this first column, you would write your learning objectives, stating, by the end of this course, my students will be able to. And then my next row is measure. How can I measure that this learning objective has been met? How can I exactly measure that I'm meeting this learning objective, and so on? For example, define the terminology or justify and compare. And I could use Bloom's taxonomy verbs to begin to write these learning objectives. But I work horizontally. This objective, how do I measure it? This objective, how do I measure that one? This objective, how do I measure that one? And then I help my colleagues to discuss, or I would like my colleagues to fill this in, and I'll have this discussion with them. How can the tutor help students to practice to meet this learning objective, which will be measured in this way? And how will it be presented? Perhaps a few chapters in a book or a video lecture. And it's after that I suggest which ICT tools might be appropriate to be used. And so on, working horizontally in this manner. So importantly, the course needs to be aligned. And when courses are not aligned, students might say, for example, the classic statement, will this come in the final exam? You just take that question out of the equation, because you align the objective and you know exactly how you're going to measure it, how you're going to practice it, and how it will be presented. It's constructively aligned. So you start off by focusing on the learning objectives, and you work horizontally. But importantly for staff, quality has to be in relation to allocated hours. The first question that I would ask a tutor is, how many hours do you receive to do the course? And surprisingly, not everybody is very clear about this. So how many hours do you get to do a course? And so this is the second framing planning tool, where I ask my colleagues to write down exactly how many hours they receive, how many students they've got, and so on. And this works together with this framework. You fill this in as best you can in your ideal world. However, if you find that it's going to take, you want to measure something in a certain way, then you have to do the math. If I have, for example, 40 students and it's going to take me 30 minutes to mark each paper, well, that's 20 hours. So you have to go back and forth between these two diagrams until you've got a fine balance between the number of hours you have and the course that you're planning and how you're getting through to it. This course planning framework is available on my website. Now, being new to ICT maybe can mean that sometimes you end up in this kind of situation, and this is because of bad planning from the outset. And I really recommend that you work with the course planning framework. One of my statements is also that you get the help that you need to do that. My position was created in 2009. Before that, my job didn't exist. And my job is to help my colleagues at the Faculty of Arts to design and develop their net-based courses, both for campus and for distance courses. But what's it like being an ICT coach? Well, sometimes it's a bit like this. And I get that staff are busy, but sometimes I think a little bit of time investment can have a great return on it. So to summarize, a summary, how do most students access and consume expert knowledge? My contention is that for the most part it's in this format. The lecture takes the traditional lecture takes a large time of the time-space interaction. But if we embrace multiple time-space dimensions for active learning environments, then we can move away from this classic format and perhaps have a format which can vary, which consists of video quizzes, lots of activation seminars where students are being activated when the expert is in the room, and we have a flipped classroom environment. So this is to again state what I had said in the first video, what I hope will become your default attitude and thinking regarding ICT. So ICT success and ICT development is about, of course, tutors wanting to make the step and change, but also that support is well financed. And if it is well financed and done, and you can receive support when you need it, locally, hopefully at your desk, then I think staff will embrace ICT. Please feel free to look at my different websites and contact me if you have any specific questions. This is the main website address and my details. Thank you very much. This was a presentation called Recreating the Learning Environment, and my name is Satish Patel, ICT Coach at the Faculty of Arts, University.